Dreamers, doers, and rule breakers. People who try new things, take risks, and break the mold. Wins or stumbles, that's how the world shifts. This is How It Shifts.
Welcome to another episode of How It Shifts. My name is Tina Bieber, and today Jose Leal, the co-founder of Radical World, is with me, and Guillermo Espinola. See, now I'm saying it wrong. Espinola, the co-founder of Xipe Technologies. And today's episode is special because today it's about honoring the legacy of Matt Perez. And that's why the three of us are here to dive into what Matt has created, what he has inspired, and actually also brought us together. I think that's why we are here for today. So let's dive into it. And thank you guys so much for being here today. And I hope we can keep it together. Hi.
We can keep it together. Yeah. I know we can.
Yeah. No, I know. So I'd like to start with little introductions. So would you do me the favor and just introduce yourself a little bit, Jose? And then I would pass it on to Guillermo, but please.
Certainly. When you say Matt brought us together, so he brought us together today because it's in his honor that we're here, but he also introduced all of us in one way or another to each other. So we have him to thank for that. My name is Jose Leal. I'm co-founder of Radical World. And for many, many years, I was an entrepreneur who wound up getting into corporate and learning that the corporate world is really a place where you go to learn how to not do business. And that was the thing that Matt and I shared together. We both had experienced the corporate world, and many of our stories were similar. So that's one of the ways that we connected, was a recognition that we both had experienced the world that neither of us wanted other people to experience.
Right. Thank you, Jose. Guillermo.
Well, I am Guillermo Espinola, founder of Xipe Technology, and I am a software developer. I love to build things, and I guess that was the connection with Matt. We were both in the same industry, and I got the opportunity to meet him. So here we are.
Yeah, Matt was a special person, right? Yeah, he brought this kind of special energy into the room. How would you describe his energy?
When I first met Matt, it felt standoffish because he would be Matt, which was, if Matt was in the room, he was the one that was sticking out, right? Like he was the one that was that you noticed. And at the same time, it felt like Matt was kind of like, I'm my own person. I'm not paying attention to anything. You pay attention to me. And so I think as much as he was loved by all of us and many other people, he did have a presence that was sort of like it or not, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And his presence was attractive. People were attracted to that. And I think he helped a lot of people and brought a lot of people together because of that, because he had that personality that was just really about being able to have people gravitate toward him.
But yeah. Also something that is very unique from Matt is that if he was there, is because a genuine interest in what is happening, because he don't go to any place just for politeness or just because he feel that he must be there or for FOMO. If he was in a place, is because a real interest in that. So that makes something that's a very it makes you feel good, because you know that if Matt was spending time with you, it's because he wants. So in addition to what Jose said, that Matt has a very strong personality, it was the kind part of that, because Matt was very strongly opinionated, and has his points, but he was there.
Yeah. Like how, if somebody would ask me how to describe him, I would say he was like, for me, the embodiment of being unfuckwittable. Like you definitely, like, you knew what you got into in a way, because it was pure authenticity and pure drive of actually being an enabler for change in a radical way, right? Because also transforming to a certain extent pain into action. And that was vastly inspiring. And I remember, Jose, we had this crazy idea in like 2019. Like we would call, and I mean, we should maybe also say, like, Guillermo is based in Hermosillo. Jose is based in the Bay Area, where Matt also was, right? And I'm based in Amsterdam. And I would give Jose a call and would say, hey, I had this idea, like maybe we could like build a platform, people could like connect on purpose. He was like, Tina, I thought about that, and added to that. And then we co-created something. And then we would call Matt, and he was like, sure, we should do that. Come over. He was like, sure, and like this kind of, it's like an engagement on a different level, right? He would always bring everything in he had, believing in like this shared mission of doing good. And I think that's like, it's very unique. It's very unique, and that's also what's living on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember those days fondly, because we did that for 2 or 3 days. We met a lot of awesome people, most of them thanks to you. And we had an experience. Again, Matt's strength was just being sure about what he believed in, and just being really direct about that. And that, I think, both in those days, that was when we were talking about One Life, and subsequently when we started talking about, because the way that Radical started was that Matt and I were having coffees because we had been introduced by Doug Kirkpatrick,
yes,
who saw that both of us were like saying the same things, and Doug's like, you need to be talking to Matt, because Matt's he had just sold Nearsoft, and he wanted to do something more with self-management, and he was still calling it self-management. And it was our conversations that led us to this idea of, wait a minute, it's not about self-management, it's about co-management. And that co-management is us together rather than me self-managing, right? And that changed our minds. I invited him to a conference up in Sacramento, where it was the California annual co-op conference. And he had never been to one. I had never been to one. But I thought there was something there for what we had been talking about. So we took the train up, had a great conversation. I mean, it's not that much of a drive, but it was nice just being on the train and getting up there. Rented an Airbnb and spent a couple of days up there. And it was on the train back. You should have been there. We would, all of us would have been absolutely in our glory, because a light went on for him and for me. That was like the birth of Radical and the birth of Radical Companies, the book we wound up writing, because it was this realization that it's not just co-management, but it's also co-ownership. And that was that conference that we walked away going, absolutely, you can't have one without the other. And that's really the birth of Radical World, was this recognition that the only way that we have enough freedom to be able to do these things at a co-management level is when we have co-ownership.
Right.
That's something that Matt told me several times, because when we were trying to flat our organization here in Mexico, Matt always said to me that you can't ask people for self-management and take ownership of things that they don't own. So if you really want to achieve the impact of having people taking care of your business, is the only way is to make it our business. So sometimes we don't listen. So we start trying to apply the principles without without releasing the ownership of the things, and reality reach you, and the warnings becomes true, and then you learn. but fortunately, during all this process, I had Matt's guidance and help to overcome the difficult situation we got by doing things partially.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't meet Matt for as long as I would like. We met, I don't know, like around 5 years. But during all that years, Matt always helped us with a very genuine interest in what we were doing. So I'm very thankful for that.
Mm. And we've been like speaking now already about like quite some things like Matt was involved in, or like the radical world that Jose and Matt started, and where we are all part of, actually, right? But for people who don't know, or who never got the chance to meet Matt, like there is quite a belief behind all of that. I would like to go a little bit deeper into it. And it is you called it the Radical Lens, right, Jose, you and Matt? Can we just go a little bit into that? What does that mean?
It means that we've both gone through this experience of having bought in to corporate life, right? To this world that we live in, to the way that we do business. And that having been bought in, we realized that the way we saw it was that it was absolutely normal. When we were in it, it was normal. It was like, of course, this is the way we managed, we own, we direct people. And yeah, he fired people, I fired people. I told him the story about having been flying across Canada when I was VP, letting people go, and on one flight, like coming back and just bawling my eyes out. I couldn't stop crying on this flight on the way to another city, because I just laid off, a couple of dozen people, and he had similar things of coming home and not being able to sleep for a whole night, because he had to go do things like that as well. And so we both had shared these personal stories with each other. And that process of sharing that bonded us to the point where we realized that what we were talking about was that there was a lens where all of that was normal. And it was Matt that coined the Fiat Lens.
Right.
And the Fiat Lens, it was, he liked to say it the way I tell you to do it. It's what I tell you to do, right? And his definition, I think, can be extended a little bit, which is to say, it's the way we've accepted that we can be told that somebody's has the power to tell you what to do, right? And that's the lens, right? That's the Fiat Lens. We've all accepted it. We're all just, yeah, I've got a boss, and I've got a this, and I've got a that, and there's an owner, and so forth. And at the same time, we realized that there was another way, which was the way we started to see, which was a radical lens, which is the ability to see that each of us have a desire to express our radical purpose. And that radical purpose, that way of us being ourselves, that we're unique, that we have our own needs, that our meaning and belonging and our purpose of ourselves is ultimately what we're here to express, not somebody else's, but our own. That's the radical purpose. That's the radical lens. And so I've started calling it the life lens, actually, because it's focusing on our lives and the needs in our lives and the rhythms of our lives. And that's, I think, departure is from a lens where we're guided by force, by someone else's force, to one where we recognize that we have our own motivation and to be guided by that motivation. And that was, the key insight outside of meaning, co-management and co-ownership of the book Radical Companies. I think the biggest insight for us was that it's really how you change what you see that changes what you do. And if we stop looking at the world through this Fiat lens and start looking at it through this, what I'm calling a life lens nowadays, but a radical lens, then we start to see that there is something there in us and each other that needs to come out, that our job is to help come out, not to force into place. And that's the beauty of what I think is a radical world. I hope that makes sense. I hope that
it does. And there is one thing I just want to say, because the first time when we talked about the name of Radical, I'm like, oh my gosh, it puts me off. Like, Radical, really? I'm German. If we talk about radicals, like, ooh. And then you were like, no, Tina, wait a minute. Like, radical actually means root. And that for me changed everything, because it's about like you're being rooted in yourself and actually creating and impacting out of this place of equilibrium, right? That's
being.
what of being. Yeah. So that actually the purpose is that you are in this kind of equilibrium. We have different kind of needs, right? You have different needs than I have, and we need different amounts of different things. And that for me changed the entire view on purpose, because you guys know I've been working with the concepts of purpose since like almost a decade now in the organizational context. And that was for me like really this moment of, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, this is actually what I've been through. So, huge impact.
Yes, when I hear the concept of the lens at the beginning, it took me a while to understand its purpose, but then after hearing Matt and Jose in the conversations and making an effort to understand, I realized that it's a very useful tool for when you're trying to understand things, even from the perspective of doing an analysis or something, but also when you are speaking with another person and trying to get into agreement, and you realize that people is acting in different ways that is, it feels like they are attacking you or defending themselves. So I got to this moment of the lens. So what are they seeing in this moment? So they are seeing the need of control, the possibility that you fail, the possibility that you being dishonest, and all of that. And the thing is that we don't have a radical connection, which means a connection from the root. We are trying to build something from here, assuming that everybody has the same understood values in that moment. And maybe we have, but from situation it can be different, especially when you are start dealing with different cultures or different countries. So I took the other tool that Jose introduced to me and Matt explained to me, the radical agreement. So it is like a start by defining what are we scared of and what we want to achieve together. And once you put that on the table, then the radical views start popping up very naturally, because it is not what we want to achieve, this contract object. No. I am trying to build something for me, for my family, for whatever, and another person is trying to build maybe another thing, maybe something different. But we are starting from the truth that we want to do something, and by doing it together, we will be. It will be more easy for us. If there is not that connection, there is nonsense, because we will be with the Fiat Lens in front of us, trying to taking care of what the other person is doing. So I really found an interesting tool for negotiations, for creating lasting relationships in business and in collaborations with friends. So it's not only a metaphor; it's actually a tool that you can have in your brain for to live better and to coordinate efforts and collaboration. So I really understood and like the concept.
What I really like about that is, usually we talk a lot about, people are having these masks on, right? Which is in the way of actually expressing authenticity. But if we use then a lens, like how we're looking at the world, it makes it less of a conscious decision. You know what I mean? Because like oftentimes we're growing up to just have this kind of perspective, and it's not a conscious decision, right?
Exactly.
Because we're students in the school, we're like, our parents are teaching us that because they haven't seen anything else. But if we talk about people like, oh, they have the mask on, it's almost like judging them, right? And I mean, like, to me, the root is like, if the root for me is authenticity, right? If we're able to connect in like an authentic manner, which is like the purest form of ourselves, it's a real act of rebellion in our world, right?
In our times.
In the fiat world, it's an act of rebellion.
But I mean,
in a
like,
radical world, it's just the only way to be.
But how much percent is then the radical world if we look at the world we live in, right?
Well,
it's like,
yeah, and that's what, I've told you this, but a few weeks before Matt passed, we had most of the time we were together with his family when we would visit, and we were visiting quite regularly. But he and I had a chance to sit in his backyard for a few hours by ourselves one afternoon, and he was in pain and he was struggling, and so it wasn't, but he had a few minutes of being in a good place, and we had a really good conversation, and I said that I'd keep doing this, and he said he knew that I would, but that his dream hadn't been fulfilled, and that was that everybody understood the Fiat Lens, that everybody understood that the way we're seeing the world isn't the way the world is. And that this idea that we're supposed to be telling each other what to do and forcing people to do the things some of us have the power to do, have been put in the position to do, is not where we want to go. And that's the, I'm paraphrasing obviously what he said, but the thing is, he wanted that desperately. That was the thing he wanted to see most. It wasn't the creation of something new. It was that the recognition that the way we see things is what we deem acceptable isn't acceptable.
And also, if you have once seen it, you cannot unsee it.
Exactly.
And I want to challenge the teenie's rhetoric question of how of the percentage of radical people in the world, and I would say everybody is radical. The thing is, nobody is confident enough to show it. But once you start behaving in that way with them, they open themselves naturally, or reject you immediately, which is a win also. But if you show yourself if you show yourself as you are, and you set your conditions, and you speak about what is behind the under the hood, like this is what I want, this is what I want to achieve, in an honest way, people start behaving like that. So I think the Matt's idea of make all the world to see the lens is a good purpose. It's a good mission, if you want to see it that way, because more and more people will start opening themselves to start new relationships in business, in family, in life, in whatever, just more naturally, instead of hiding behind the politeness. We all develop. Nobody teach us, like indoctrinated us. Well, yes, but we can say that in this podcast. So it's like we develop this shell around us, just to not be hurt or don't hurt anybody. But we need to lose that fear in order to be more natural. So sometimes it happens. So it's better to apologize if you do it.
I was just going to say that there's a thing that I think we both learned, Matt and I, which is we don't know how to be radical. So it's easy to say, I'm going to be radical, but we've had millennia of tools, millennia of practices and habits of how to be Fiat.
Yes.
We don't have things that are available to us as tools. And that's what Radical World is trying to do, is build some of these tools and help us sort of have the means by which to be radical and not have to invent it all ourselves as individuals, right? How do we see things differently? How do we communicate differently? How do we build organizations differently? All of those things are part of this process of moving away from the Fiat lens in this Fiat world that we live in.
But I mean, if you look at the community, right, we're all part of the same community, and I liked what Guillermo said, and I completely understand what you're saying, Jose, because it's our life purpose in a way, right? I mean, this is what we've been trying on, dedicating our life, our work to actually creating organizations and as enablers for change, in helping people to feel empowered and to be able to be vulnerable and showing up for themselves and the people around them. And I also feel like we are a very tight community. Like, it's not like that we're in touch every day, but how we met was, I mean, in a very vulnerable state always. Like, it's like it just gets very quickly very tight, and that's what I'm feeling like. That there is this, like, I would go great length for all of you, you know, like if we would get in certain situations, and I think that is all rooted in how we showed up as individuals, and then for each other, and co-created quite an inspiring and thriving environment to be in, right? So I think there's truth in it. But then it gets like, I mean, how we're a community, like we're not like making money together or something in that sense right now, because I just want to say there's like more complicated kind of components coming in that that make it more complex, but we're dealing with it differently as like tools, as you said, like the radical agreements, or we're more consciously, entering these kind of relationships and sharing the learnings and making space for mistakes and, getting new energy out of that. So it's like training a muscle, right?
Exactly.
In different kind of contexts. And I think visibly or also invisibly, we keep supporting each other because we know we are there, We get to know each other. I've seen you in your element. You have seen me. So we know we exist. And that's what gives strength in maybe sometimes a very invisible kind of manner.
Absolutely. And I think that's true of the Nearsoft folks as an example, right? Like Matt absolutely loved what happened with Nearsoft. that to him was the biggest success in the world. To have gone from not knowing anything about self-management to being one of the case studies of self-management to him he was in his glory because of that. And he absolutely loved what happened.
And the impact.
And he loved the people. That's the point. It's that he had gotten to know those people in that way, in that intimate way, which he had never done in the same way in the organizations that he'd worked with before.
But also the Nearsoft case show us that there is a better way to build companies, because the impact they had here in Hermosillo was huge. Suddenly they became the company that everybody was copying. Even today, when some companies said, "Nah, I don't like Nearsoft," whatever you said, but you're doing exactly what the same that they did, because is the light that we have in this complex world of having a lot of projects with a lot of developers, with a lot of mobile parts in the organization, and there is not enough traditional management to control everything. So the only way to do it is in the radical way, because and that's what Matt showed us. And yes, as you said, it became a case of study. But also in Hermosillo, you see the software development industry, and you will see an after and a before and a before Nearsoft, the Matt's Nearsoft, and well, all the team, because that's a teamwork. Roberto did it great, and all the people in there who started with Matt since the very beginning. So,
can you describe it a little bit more? Like what was the before and after? Like just like for people to get a little bit of a picture, what the impact looked like.
Before Nearsoft in the Northwest Mexico, we have this vision of software development, big companies like Uno Square or Softtech, which are very rigid, are very where the developer is just a resource of the company. So they have a higher turnover rate, and all their business is to be attracting more and more developers and let them go after a years. So like they are like processing the stuff in that time. And the small companies like mine and others, we were like self-slaves of, the customer said, we need to work, and we push the people to work until late, and I don't know, always chasing or trying to hold the line against the deadlines. But then Nearsoft came with this view that if we work every day on things, the progress is undeniable. So we don't need to be on a rush. And if the people has a direct contact with the customer and has a personality in front of the customer instead of stairs of management, you will be faster, the results will be better, the communication will be better, and the customer will be happier. So I don't know, 3 things that Matt changed in the software companies from before. Well, developers have a voice in front of the customers. We used to be scared and have fear that what the developer will say, they need to keep the contract, and Matt showed us that no, direct communication is better. So that giving voice to the people is important. The other thing is something that was very radical in Hermosillo is like everybody set their own salary instead of having like a board. It's like, hey, I need this to live. This is my so in the interviews when they started, so that was an important part. Hey, how much you need, how much you're looking for. No company asks you that in those times. So we had a developer and we said, we have this amount for you, take it or leave it.
What times are we talking about?
Well, 2005 until 2012 is when Nearsoft became a thing in Hermosillo, I guess. Since 2012 or 13, around, they start making noise, a lot of noise, and then the
and growing.
And growing. And then the business organization in Mexico started inviting Roberto to speak about it. And everybody was, I remember Roberto speaking about how they organize. And the people here like, no, this is crazy. That can't work. And it works. and they scaled, they grew faster. So that all was possible thanks to Matt vision and Matt and Roberto vision. So, but they changed the way all the businessmen in the region make business now.
I can't let go of not telling this story because I think Matt would be very upset if I didn't. It wasn't Roberto, it wasn't Matt. He loves to tell the story of a young lady who worked at Nearsoft, and she was having some difficult day. She was in tears. She comes in, and she was just, there was some personal issues at home, and Matt observed the cleaning lady at Nearsoft go up to her and give her a hug and ask her what was going on and have a conversation with her and completely change the situation from, I'm just a cleaning lady. What am I going to do? Talk to a developer or whatever this young lady was. But certainly class wise, there was a different there, right? There was a perception, but at Nearsoft, that was normal. It was okay. And Matt says, I couldn't have done that. And I later went and talked to the cleaning lady and thanked her and so on and so forth, because everybody felt like the community was theirs to take care of.
Right.
And Carlos just put stuff up on our screen here, and Carlos worked there and knows exactly what it was like. And I'm sure it wasn't perfect. And I'm sure it had a lot of ups and downs. But one thing I know is it was a lot more human than the average corporation. And that, I think, is because everybody got to that point of being there for each other. And that is, I think, the miracle of what Matt and they were able to do. And I know it all started with Adrian bringing back a book and saying, here's a book called, what was it called? It wasn't called Radical. It was called, I can't remember, but it was a book by Semler.
Yeah.
Ricardo Semler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maverick.
And, Maverick. Thank you.
And Adrian is the son of Matt.
And Adrian is the son. Okay. And they were talking, they had been talking, Roberto and Matt, and both of them read that book like in a couple of days. I think Roberto read it overnight. And basically they went, this is what we've been talking about. They didn't have words for it. They didn't have any models for it. And basically the feelings they had were expressed by what Ricardo was writing in that book. And it really gave them permission to do it. So we all learn from each other in this space. And, it didn't come from nowhere, but it did come from inside. It came from this sense that there's a better way to do this.
And also never stopping, right? Like in 2019, we Pietro, obviously, Pietro is Guillermo, I don't know if you know Pietro, but no. So Pietro and I had this crazy idea, let's do the first self-management meetup in Verona. And at that time I called Matt, I'm like, don't you want to come? Just be a speaker. And he's like, sure. Suitcase are packed. I grab Anita and I'm coming over. and he came, we had a great time in Italy, but he also visited us in Amsterdam. And he was like telling me, just please pick all the interesting companies I should meet. So he never stopped learning. So I would like have him sit in my car, and we would go from company to company. That's what we did for a week, right? We would visit these companies. He would have endless questions, just like, would just like listen. And he always had opinions. Yes. Like we would leave, and there was a lot of opinions, a lot of interesting conversations in the car. I'm like, too bad that at that time, like, we didn't have like an AI device that would capture everything when we were talking about it, making mind maps out of it. But it was like so refreshing, like this kind of really genuine curiosity. So it was like this openness, but on the other side, really having strong opinions and being in there, and also being biased about a couple of things, because obviously you have had like so much experience yourself. But he always saw the people as well, like we would go into these companies, and he was genuinely interested in who are you, why are you doing that, and how you're doing it. And that was a very wild week. And then obviously, I mean, we had a great time. They would sleep on a houseboat because they wanted to have the experience of Amsterdam. So we would visit them on the houseboat. They always had like like this open door also in the Bay Area, right? We would come visit, and there would other people already sitting around the table. And at that time it was also, they were working together, right? And the girls were sitting there, and it's like, yeah, we come here like all the time. It's like this, it's an attitude to life, right? It's like you see people, you trust people, and you want to be with people. That is community building at its most intimate level. And I think that's what, inspired also how they run the organizations. Guillermo.
Something that was very unique about Matt in this community building aspect is that at the very beginning, Eduardo introduced Matt to me, but it was just like an email, like, "Hey, Guillermo, meet meet Matt, meet Guillermo." So we started speaking about it, and I said, how easy how this is it was very light, not like in the traditional business world where I will introduce you to to this guy and don't speak with him directly. But then Matt started introducing me to people just like that. He was just making connections directly, person to person, without the entitlement of that we use in our everyday. No, you can't contact the engineer, he's busy, without doorkeepers or without intermediaries, and Matt just simplified it like that. He was connecting people who he thought was interesting to put together with very natural. So that's something that I learned, and I like to do it that way. Some people get mad about it, but
get mad about it.
Get mad, not mad about it, because they want to keep relationships for them. But Matt, what I learned from Matt is that relationships are there to multiply. You need to connect as much people as possible in this world, instead of being intermediary things all the way.
Yeah,
and
not
we're talking
too
to a person who knows how to do that better than anyone else. Tina is the ultimate connector.
Yes. Yes, she is.
Oh my gosh.
Matt, I must admit, Matt was good at it, but he couldn't touch Tina on that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for the flowers, guys.
Yes, you are a human half. Connecting everything.
Human hub, I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. But this is not about me. No,
but it's true. And I think, well, I know, because you were an instrumental part of connecting us with so many people, connecting Matt and I with so many people. And I don't think we'd be here today had we not met you. Because honestly, we were sitting in a coffee shop week after week after week for years, having these conversations and sending each other, documents and sharing things. And neither of us are really extroverts, right? And so having someone like you in our lives helped a lot, like bringing Matt to Italy and to Amsterdam, and us going to Lisbon and
Brazil. Jose, we went to
Brazil,
Brazil together.
right? Like these
Yeah.
are the things that has extremely helped
That's
us
very radical.
to move forward, right? Like it can't be. I love Matt, and Matt had all of these qualities that we all cared, and it's some that some of us didn't care so much. But it's true that in honoring Matt, I think we also need to honor others' contributions to all of this, because it's part of the thing. Like Matt didn't make any of this happen by himself, right? And none of us do. None of us make it happen by ourselves. And if we put people on a pedestal to the point where it's like as wonderful and as caring and as giving and as kind as Matt was, we can all do that, right?
Yeah.
We can all be that. It's not that he was so unique that that none of us can touch that, right? I think it's the opposite, that he was so regular, so normal that all of us can touch that.
So
And
natural.
So natural.
So natural. That's why it's weird.
Thank you. That's the right word.
That's why it's weird. Nobody's natural every day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, it's
We are not.
yeah, an act of rebellion, right? It's like, that's what I meant with being unfuckwittable. I know it's like a very, the word itself, but this is our podcast. We can say that. So, yeah, just telling you, we can say that.
Yes, you can fuck with anyone who don't care your
Okay,
opinion.
now it goes. Okay, whatever. But Matt would have also not cared about that. And I think if we would not all overthink all the time, like making connections, like for example, when you were telling how Matt brought people together, I do it the same way, and I also don't overthink it. I never cared about titles. I never cared about location. I never cared about education, all these kind of things. But if I have a feeling there is a common ground and there is an intersection, or there's a possible impact or project coming out of it, it's easy. Like, they will be good for each other, and you just do it. But I think we're oftentimes so trapped into overthinking, and then we go back to like the Fiat Lens, because if you flip it, yeah, exactly, it's fear, right? It's oftentimes fear, and it's like the fear of failing, it's the fear of what people might think, it's the fear of what kind of damaging this is going to be to my or your reputation, it's the fear of the scarcity of my time, which I have to spend on my work, on my children, or whatever. Like, I don't have time for that because nobody pays me back on that, whatever. But it's a ground belief, right? How we are looking at the world. And it's a basic trust in people and life as well. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, what helped me to get through high school and college and life is I always thought about it, and I don't know where it came from. I really don't know. I just know that I just thought, I really trust like that every person I meet teaches me either about myself or about life. And I was practicing like that since a kid. And that saved my ass. Seriously, because it was like it gave me the certain openness. You believe it or not, I was an extremely shy child. Like, I was really like, like I didn't know what to do. I was very fear driven, because that's how I grew up as well. It's just I grew up with a lot of fear, a lot of stress at home, and all these kind of things. And at some point, it just made a switch, and I was lucky enough to experience that. But I know a lot of people, either they're not even getting in that situation, or they need like an extra push, or they get in really bad situations where nothing is left but to believe in something, right? So how do people make the switch from the Fiat Lens to see beyond it?
You need to see it first. You need to see it as a lens and not a reality. The reality is only what we see, right? There's real world things, right? There's reality. Life is all around us. But the way we characterize that, the stories we tell about how things work and what things are and what's real and what's, like we make money the most real thing, right? We make corporations the most real thing. We call them people legally, right? They're legal people. All of these things that we've created, most of them have been built from this lens of fiat. Control and more control and more control and more control. Right? Why? Because we're afraid that if we don't apply control, then there's going to be chaos. Right? And this idea that humans by themselves, without being forced and controlled, there will be chaos. And I think that's the miracle of realization, is that when you give us space and we're not afraid of each other, and we're not thinking that the world's going to fall apart when we give people freedom, when we allow ourselves and allow each other to be free, then all of a sudden you start to taste that. But it starts with seeing it first. And then that taste is, oh, wow, there's a magic here that I didn't understand. There's a power to do something that that I hadn't experienced. Like you, I had a difficult upbringing, my home and so forth. And of course, that's the world. That's the world I know. So it's all about power. It's all about fighting. It's all about, disagreement. Because, my parents, I suspect, like your parents, didn't know how to do it any other way.
And they had good intentions, right? I'm not questioning intentions, but it's how it came out. Yeah.
But their lens was set, and they didn't have the knowledge that it was a lens, and they didn't have the knowledge that they could change the lens.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the tools by which they could, and the support of one another. And that's the other thing that I think Matt and I kept saying was, we can do this ourselves, but we can't do it by ourselves.
I think the phrase that set the Fiat Lens like a part of our identity is when you start complaining, when you're young and you start complaining about things, and that, hey, grow up. This is how it is. It's grow up. So we think that growing up means to act more distant and more in this unnatural way and disconnected way, because is what being professional means. Don't bring yourself to the table. Be professional. So it is like I think that's how the lens are installed and fixed in front of our eyes.
For me, the term is the thing that I go back to every time. It just feels very visceral to me. Is this term that I heard so many times, because in the corporation I was in, it was a startup, so it was a mess. But it's not personal. It's just business. Right. That was the statement that really came up for me in a big way. And of course, it's only personal. Everything is only personal, right? There is no not personal.
And also, I would just like to just add one thing, because this mechanization of everything, right? Like, we're taking intentionally flow and creativity and innovation and the human aspect out in mechanizing everything, which is also, again, coming out of like this mindset of control and fear, right? Because it gives us the illusion of safety. And it's been just so interesting because obviously, like, we're taking concepts of, for example, self-management, and we are even able to mechanize these, and just like forgetting in our perspective that an organization is a social system and it is a living organism because it consists of people, and the same for family homes, like even in like parenting, right? It's like I had this conversation the other day about like designing for happiness, and that it's so important to actually like design friction in it. And I'm like, but aren't we supposed to make everything very frictionless? And it's like, no, wait a minute. Then we're actually taking out growth opportunities for, in that case, our children, but also if we talk about UX design or if we talk about cultural
Everything else.
transformation. Yeah. And when we take out growth, we take out agency, ownership. Like it feels like it's like so upside down, everything, right? And again, we're going back then to the Fiat Lens.
To the Fiat
Yeah.
Lens. And the Fiat Lens is regrounding, right? Because we as individuals are supposed to live our lives by all of the ideology, all of the stories,
Mm-hmm.
and none of us, right? The us part is secondary. Like
Yes.
if you get some of you in the way that you behave, good luck, right? Because it's all about how we are supposed to do it, how we're supposed to do business, how we're supposed to do family, how we're supposed to do relationships and communities and friendships. And the radical lens is really about recognizing that all of these relationships is what they are, and that if it's a relationship for doing business, that's the priority.
Mm-hmm.
That's the root, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the fiat.
Jose, if people would like to get in touch with the Radical World or participate or, I don't know, learn about tools, approaches, methodologies, or contribute themselves, what is the best way for them to engage and get in touch?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Jose Leal on LinkedIn. They can visit radical.world, which is our domain, or reach out to Jose at radical.world, and we can get that going and communicate. I mean, there's a lot for us to do, and we're a small community, but the idea is to not let any of this stop with Matt, and to continue doing this work.
And Guillermo, you connected with Matt on the point that actually technology is a platform for change and transformation. You're living that, right? So what is, like, if you would need to name one up to 3 things that you have learned from Matt, how you're doing business today, what is that? And what you will still keep alive?
I guess 2 things. All the technology that we built must serve first to the people, to the user, and instead of the system. All the technology now seems to be designed for corporations, or to make people more technocratic, more, everybody's speaking about AI driven, data driven, whatever driven, excepting humanity. So Matt always said, when you design a software, instead of thinking of the roles, the privacy in between the organization, so people can see what others see. Try to imagine different systems where people can share things freely and agree inside the application or the software we are building. So if the software we use is designed for collaboration instead of control, then everything will be better, because we can change the world, teach the world through these tools. And that's a principle of our company. We build for people, not for systems, not for control. And that's another conversation, because it sounds like I am crashing with happiness, designing for happiness. but we're speaking about different system. The thing is, system is there are two kinds of systems, and we live into different systems. But the thing is not built for people, not for control.
Yeah, that makes sense. So guys, I would like to have some closure words from both of you, if you feel like. Anything you still have on your mind that would like to come out? A piece of wisdom or...
Matt had another thing that he would always tell people, which was people would come to him and ask him, because even though it was a self-managed organization, they were still the two founders, Roberto and Matt. And people would come and say, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do that? And you would say, I don't know, can you?
I love that.
And they'd go, no, but I want, he says, are you asking my opinion or are you asking my permission? Because if you're asking for my permission, you won't get it. But if you're asking for my opinion, I'll give it to you. We need to get used to that. We need to get used to giving input and insight to each other, but not thinking of it as control or this idea that this fiat idea that we should be able to control other people. As much as we can, give each other the support to make the right decisions and do the right things, but not do it as a sense of control over someone else.
Guillermo?
For me, is that we underestimate the impact of the way we organize together, how it impacts in our life. We don't see it. We don't see it that clear. Sometimes I have a visit here.
Oh my God!
It's an angel. So,
she is an angel.
Yeah, she is an angel.
So I think it's very valuable to follow what Matt said. Design the way we organize for work impacts in our life. So if this is a message for all the people there starting a new business or a company, or try to change or try to create your company for wellness, not for control, not for hyper growth or whatever it is. Turn your company into a irradiator of wellness around you. And a good organization based on freedom and not control is the way.
Thank you. You guys are such an inspiration for me. Thank you so much for co-traveling. And a huge thank you again to you, Matt, for having impacted us so much and having been there. And we still feel the connection and the spirit. And it's always lived through you guys for me. And I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
Dreamers, doers, and rule breakers. People who try new things, take risks, and break the mold. Wins or stumbles, that's how the world shifts. This is How It Shifts,